I was sitting in my car outside my mother's house, engine off, staring at the front door like it might bite me. 3 hours I had been driving to get here. 3 hours of highway bad coffee and that familiar knot in my stomach that always appeared whenever I came home. In my jacket pocket sat an envelope with $2,000 in cash, a gift for my grandmother's 70th birthday. I loved that woman more than words could say, but walking into that house meant facing my mother, and that was never simple. See, I am the one who sends money home every single month. I am the one who picks up the phone at 2 a.m. when something breaks. Yet somehow I am always the disappointment. Before I share what happened at that dinner table, let me know where you are watching from today. Drop your location in the comments, hit that like button, and subscribe if you have not already. What happened next changed everything I believed about family loyalty. Let me tell you about my family so you can understand how we got here. My mother, Gloria, is 62 years old. She became a widow when I was just 14 after my father passed away from a heart attack that came out of nowhere. One day he was laughing at the breakfast table, and the next day he was gone. That loss hardened something in my mother. She became obsessed with appearances, with success, with making sure the neighbors knew her children were doing well. She had this way of comparing us against each other and against everyone else's kids like we were products on a shelf, and she needed to make sure she got the best value. My older brother Derek is 36 now. He went to law school in California, passed the bar on his first try, and never looked back. He lives in Los Angeles, works at some fancy firm, and comes home maybe once every 2 years, if we are lucky. But to hear my mother tell it, Derek hung the moon and stars. She brings him up in every conversation. My son, the lawyer. My son in California. My son who is so busy and important. Then there is my sister Natalie. She is 34, married to a man named Gregory, who owns a chain of dental clinics. Natalie is a doctor, an anesthesiologist to be specific. They live in a big house in Texas with their 2 kids and a swimming pool. Natalie sends my mother expensive gifts on holidays. Designer handbags, fancy kitchen appliances, things that look good in photographs. My mother posts every single one on Facebook like she won the lottery. My youngest sister is Brianna. She is 26, the baby of the family, and she has never held a steady job in her life. She calls herself a freelance artist, which as far as I can tell means she paints when she feels like it and asks other people for money when she does not. My mother defends her constantly. Brianna is following her dreams. Brianna is sensitive. Brianna needs support. And then there is me, Valerie. 30 years old software engineer living in Columbus, Ohio. I make decent money. Not lawyer money, not marry a dentist money, but enough to live comfortably and still have plenty left over. Enough to send home every month without fail. When my father died, I was 14 and suddenly the man of the house in a way that made no sense. Derek was already away at college. Natalie was focused on getting into medical school. Someone needed to help my mother keep things running. So I started working. I bagged groceries after school. I mowed lawns on weekends. I did whatever I could to bring in a few extra dollars. When I went to college, I did not ask my mother for a single cent. I worked 2 jobs, took out loans, and graduated in 5 years instead of 4 because I could not afford to take a full course load. While Derek was getting his law degree funded by scholarships, and Natalie was supported by her future husband's family, I was eating ramen noodles and sleeping 4 hours a night. After I graduated and got my first real job, I started sending money home, $500 every month like clockwork. I set up an automatic transfer so I would never forget. That was 8 years ago. Do the math. That is $48,000 just in monthly payments. But that is not all. 3 years ago, my mother called me in a panic. The roof was leaking. Water was coming into the living room every time it rained. She had gotten quotes from contractors, and the cheapest one was $12,000. Derek said he was between investments. Natalie said Gregory had just bought new equipment for the clinics. Brianna laughed and asked if Mom was joking. So, I paid for the roof. $12,000 gone in one wire transfer. 2 years ago, my mother's car died. It was a 15-year-old sedan that had been making strange noises for months. She needed something reliable to get to her doctor appointments and the grocery store. Derek sent his thoughts and prayers. Natalie suggested Mom take the bus. Brianna asked if she could borrow the new car once Mom got it. I bought my mother a 3-year-old Honda Accord for $7,000. Brianna has borrowed money from me more times than I can count, but the biggest was $3,000 for a security deposit on an apartment. She swore she would pay me back within 6 months. That was 2 years ago. I have not seen a single dollar. There have been countless smaller things too. A new water heater when the old one exploded, dental work that insurance did not cover, a plane ticket when my mother wanted to visit her sister in Florida. Every time something came up, the phone rang and it was always my number they dialed. I calculated it once late at night when I could not sleep. In 8 years, I have given my family more than $80,000. $80,000. I could have bought a house with that money. I could have invested it and watched it grow. Instead, it disappeared into my mother's accounts like water into sand, and somehow nobody ever seemed to remember. Because here's the thing about being the reliable one. People stop seeing your sacrifices. They stop saying thank you. They start expecting. And when you give and give and give, they do not think you are generous. They think you are obligated. Every time I came home for a visit, my mother found something to criticize. Why are you still renting? Derek bought a condo his second year out of law school. When are you getting married? Natalie had 2 kids by your age. Why do you dress like that? Brianna has such good fashion sense. It did not matter what I accomplished. It did not matter how much I gave. In my mother's eyes, I was always coming up short. I told myself it did not bother me. I told myself I was being a good son, that my father would have been proud that family was family, and you did not keep score. But somewhere deep down, a wound was forming. Every dismissive comment, every forgotten thank you, every comparison to my siblings added another layer of scar tissue around my heart. And I kept writing those checks anyway, because that is what good sons do. Right? My grandmother's 70th birthday party was supposed to be a celebration. The whole family was coming together for the first time in 3 years. My mother had been planning it for months, calling me every week with updates about the menu, the decorations, the guest list. She had invited all the aunts and uncles, the cousins, even some neighbors who had known my grandmother for decades. There would be around 20 people packed into her small house, eating her cooking, celebrating the woman who had held our family together through every storm. I had taken 2 days off work for this. I had driven 3 hours each way. I had stopped at an ATM and withdrawn $2,000 in crisp bills, which I put in a card I had picked out specifically for my grandmother. It had flowers on the front and a message about wisdom and grace inside. I had also spent weeks putting together a photo album, printing pictures from my childhood, from family vacations, from holidays long past. I wanted to give her something money could not buy. When I walked through the front door, the house was already crowded. The smell of roast chicken and collard greens filled the air. Cousins I had not seen since high school hugged me and asked about my job. Aunts pinched my cheeks and told me I looked thin. For a moment, it felt like coming home was supposed to feel. Warm, familiar, safe. Then I saw Derek's face on the television screen. He had not come. Of course he had not come. But he had sent a video message, a 2-minute recording of himself in what looked like a home office with floor-to-ceiling windows and a view of palm trees. He was wearing a suit even though it was Saturday. He talked about how much he wished he could be there, how busy work had been, how grandmother was always in his thoughts. My mother had the video playing on a loop, and every time a new guest arrived, she made them watch it. My son, the lawyer. He is so successful he could not even take a day off. Natalie had arrived earlier that afternoon with Gregory and their 2 kids. She was wearing a dress that probably cost more than my monthly rent, and Gregory had that smug look he always got when he was around my mother. They had brought a birthday cake from some famous bakery 3 hours away, the kind of place where a single cake costs $200. My mother could not stop talking about it. Can you believe they drove all that way just for this cake? Natalie is so thoughtful. Brianna showed up 45 minutes late with no gift in hand. Her hair was dyed a new color, bright purple this time, and she was wearing paint-stained jeans and a t-shirt with holes in it. When my mother asked about a present, Brianna shrugged and said she was between projects and money was tight. My mother nodded sympathetically and told her not to worry about it, that her presence was gift enough. Nobody asked about my 3-hour drive. Nobody commented on the envelope in my pocket or the photo album wrapped in tissue paper. When I tried to show my mother the album, she glanced at it for half a second before going back to fussing over the cake presentation. Dinner was served at 6:30. We all crowded around my mother's dining table, some people in chairs, some on stools, brought in from the garage. My grandmother sat at the head of the table looking small and fragile, but happy. She kept reaching out to touch people's hands like she wanted to make sure we were all really there. The conversation flowed the way it always did at these gatherings. Loud, overlapping, full of laughter and old stories. I was starting to relax. Starting to think maybe this trip would be different. Then the comparisons began. My mother was talking to Uncle Raymond, her brother, about her children. She started with Derek, naturally. Did you see his video? He is working on this huge case, millions of dollars involved. He has a corner office now. Then she moved on to Natalie. And Natalie is doing so well. Gregory just opened his 3rd clinic. They are thinking about buying a vacation home in Colorado. She gestured toward Brianna with a soft smile. Brianna is pursuing her art. She is so talented. It is not easy being a creative soul in this world. Then someone asked about me. Oh, Valerie. My mother waved her hand dismissively. He does something with computers. Works in Ohio, still renting an apartment. Aunt Patricia, my father's sister, tried to be kind. Valerie, your mother tells me you have a good job. Software engineering, right? That is impressive. Before I could answer, my mother jumped in again. It is fine. Not as exciting as what Derek does, but it pays the bills, I suppose. I felt my face get hot. I looked down at my plate and pushed green beans around with my fork. As dinner wound down, Brianna leaned over to our mother and said something in a low voice. I could not hear the words, but I saw my mother nod and then look directly at me. Valerie, she said loud enough for the whole table to hear, your sister needs some help. She has a new project starting, and she needs about $2,000 for supplies. You can help her out, right? You do not have kids, or a mortgage, or anything. $2,000. The exact amount sitting in the envelope in my pocket meant for my grandmother. I shook my head slowly. Brianna still owes me $3,000 from 2 years ago. She has not paid back a single cent. Brianna's face crumpled like I had slapped her. Mom, she whined, he is being so selfish. My mother's eyes narrowed. The whole table had gone quiet. I could feel 20 pairs of eyes on me, watching, waiting. And then my mother said it. She said it loud and clear in front of everyone. My grandmother, my aunts and uncles, my cousins, the neighbors who had known me since I was a baby. You are the most useless child we have. The words hit me like a physical blow. I actually flinched. She was not done. Your brother is a lawyer. Your sister is a doctor. Even Brianna has artistic talent, has something special about her. What do you have? You just sit in front of a computer all day. You have no ambition. You have no drive. You could not even bother to bring a real gift tonight. I could not breathe. The room was spinning. I saw my grandmother's face pale with shock. I saw Natalie looking at her plate, refusing to meet my eyes. I saw Gregory smirking like this was entertaining. I saw Brianna dabbing at fake tears with a napkin. And something inside me, something that had been holding together for 30 years, finally snapped. I put my fork down slowly. The metal clinked against the plate, and in the silence of that room, it sounded like a gunshot. I pushed my chair back and stood up. 20 faces stared at me. My mother's expression was defiant, like she expected me to apologize, to sit back down, to swallow her words the way I had swallowed every cruel thing she had ever said to me. Not this time. I looked her directly in the eyes and I kept my voice calm, steady, clear. Then stop calling me when you need money. My mother's face went white. Her mouth opened, but no sound came out. I reached into my pocket and pulled out my phone. My hands were shaking, but I did not care anymore. I opened my banking app and started scrolling through the transaction history. You want to know what I have, Mom? You want to know what I have contributed to this family? Let me show you. I held up my phone so the people closest to me could see the screen. $500 a month. Every single month for 8 years. That is $48,000. I turned to look at the rest of the table. Has anyone else at this table sent $500 a month to this household for 8 years? Silence. I kept going. 3 years ago, Mom called me about the roof. Water was coming in through the ceiling. She needed $12,000. Derek was between investments. I looked at the television screen where his video was still paused on his smug face. Natalie said Gregory had just bought new equipment. I shifted my gaze to my sister, who was suddenly very interested in her fingernails. Brianna asked if it was a joke. I paid for the roof. $12,000. My mother tried to interrupt. Valerie, you are embarrassing yourself. No, Mom. I'm telling the truth. Maybe for the first time ever in this house. I scrolled to another transaction. 2 years ago. $7,000. That is what I paid for the car you drive every day. The car you used to pick up this birthday cake. The car you took to church last Sunday to tell everyone how proud you are of your lawyer son. My voice was getting louder, but I did not care. Years of silence were pouring out of me like water through a broken dam. And Brianna. I turned to my youngest sister, who had stopped pretending to cry and was now staring at me with something like fear. $3,000. 2 years ago, for your apartment deposit. You promised to pay me back in 6 months. Where is my money, Brianna? Where is my $3,000? She did not answer. She could not even look at me. I added it up once. In 8 years, I have given this family more than $80,000. $80,000. I could have bought a house. I could have started my own business. I could have done 100 different things with that money. But I gave it to you. All of you. Because I thought that is what family meant. I looked around the room, meeting every pair of eyes that dared to meet mine. So let me ask you all something. When the roof leaked, who did Mom call? When the car broke down, who wrote the check? When Brianna needed rent money, who answered the phone? It was not Derek with his corner office. It was not Natalie with her rich husband. It was me, the useless one, the one who just sits in front of a computer all day. Uncle Raymond cleared his throat. He looked uncomfortable, like he was seeing our family for the first time. Gloria, he said quietly, is this true? My mother's face was red now. She was furious, humiliated, caught. Valerie is exaggerating. He always has to make everything about himself. I held up my phone again. It is all right here, Mom. Bank records do not lie. Every transfer is dated and documented. Would you like me to read them out loud? All of them. She did not answer. Derek's face was still frozen on the television screen. I walked over and looked at it for a long moment. Then I pulled out my phone and called his number. He picked up on the third ring, sounding annoyed. What, I am busy. Hey, Derek. I made sure my voice carried across the room. I just told everyone about the $80,000 I have given this family over the past 8 years. Mom called me the most useless child. I was wondering, how much have you contributed? How much have you sent home to help Mom? There was a long pause. Then the line went dead. I looked at the blank screen and laughed. But there was no humor in it. Natalie was whispering something to Gregory, probably planning their escape. I turned to her next. What about you, Natalie? You send designer handbags and fancy cakes. Very photogenic. Very Facebook-worthy. But when Mom needed $12,000 for a roof, where were you? When she needed a car, what did you contribute? Natalie's voice was barely a whisper. I have my own family to take care of. So do I. I have myself. And I have been taking care of everyone else while forgetting about me. I walked over to my grandmother. She was sitting very still, her hands clasped in her lap. Tears rolling silently down her cheeks. I knelt down beside her and took her hands in mine. "Grandma," I said softly, "I love you. I drove 3 hours to be here today. I brought you this." I pulled the envelope from my pocket and pressed it into her hands. $2,000. I was going to give it to Mom to hold for you. But I think it is better if you keep it yourself. Use it for whatever you need. Whatever you want. It is yours. She squeezed my hands and looked up at me with those wise old eyes. "Valerie," she whispered, "I am so proud of you. I am sorry I never said it enough. I am sorry I did not protect you." I kissed her forehead and stood up. Then I faced my mother one last time. From today, I am done. I am done being the invisible ATM of this family. I am done giving and giving while being told I am worthless. I am done being compared to Derek and Natalie while I am the one actually showing up. I picked up the photo album I had made and set it on the table in front of my grandmother. "I am not cutting you out of my life, Mom, but I am done sending money every month. I am done being your emergency fund. If something genuinely critical happens, you can call me and I will consider it. But the days of automatic transfers and unquestioned loans are over." I walked toward the door. My mother finally found her voice. "Valerie, if you walk out that door..." I turned around. "What, Mom? What will you do, disown me? You have treated me like a stranger my whole life while I gave you everything I had. Go ahead. Disown me. At least then it will be official." I opened the door, and I walked out into the night without looking back. The first few weeks after that dinner were the hardest of my life. I drove back to Ohio that night, hands gripping the steering wheel so tight my knuckles turned white. 3 hours of highway in the dark, replaying every word I had said, wondering if I had gone too far, wondering if I had ruined everything. My mother did not call, not the next day, not the next week, not the next month. Neither did Derek or Natalie or Brianna. It was like I had ceased to exist, like 20 years of giving had been erased the moment I asked for something in return. I went through the motions at work, but I felt hollow inside. At night, I lay awake staring at the ceiling, remembering when I was a little boy, and my father would carry me on his shoulders. Remembering when my mother used to make me hot chocolate on snow days. Remembering when this family felt like something worth fighting for. I felt like a traitor. Like I had broken some sacred code. Good sons do not talk back. Good sons do not keep score. Good sons sacrifice in silence and never ask why. But then I started talking to Marcus. Marcus has been my best friend since college. We met in a computer science class, 2 kids who did not fit in anywhere else, and we have been tight ever since. He is the kind of friend who tells you the truth even when you do not want to hear it. When I told him what happened at the dinner, he was quiet for a long time. Then he said something that changed everything. "Valerie, you know what you are. You are the family scapegoat. I read about this. In dysfunctional families, there is always one kid who gets blamed for everything. One kid who can never do anything right no matter how hard they try. And there is always a golden child who gets praised no matter what they do." Sound familiar? It did. It sounded exactly like my life. Marcus convinced me to see a therapist. I had never been to therapy before. I thought it was for people with real problems, not for guys like me who just had difficult mothers. But I made an appointment anyway, and it turned out to be the best decision I ever made. Dr. Patterson was a calm woman in her 50s, with gray hair and kind eyes. She listened to me talk about my family for 6 sessions before she said anything significant. Then one day she leaned forward and said, "Valerie, can I ask you something? Do you believe you deserve to be loved without conditions?" I opened my mouth to say yes, of course, but the word would not come out. Because the truth was, I did not know. I had spent my whole life trying to earn love. Trying to be useful enough, generous enough, reliable enough. I thought if I just gave enough, eventually my mother would see me. Eventually I would matter. Dr. Patterson helped me understand that love does not work that way. Real love is not transactional. Real love does not keep a running tally of who owes what to whom. The love I had been chasing from my mother, I might never get it. And that was not my fault. That was not because I was unworthy. That was because of her limitations, not mine. For the first time in my life, I gave myself permission to stop trying. I took some of the money I would have sent home and I invested it in myself instead. I signed up for an advanced certification course at work that I had been putting off for years. I booked a flight to Costa Rica, my first real vacation since college. I started going to the gym again. I started cooking real meals instead of eating takeout over my keyboard. Slowly, day by day, I began to feel like a person again. Not just a wallet, not just a source of emergency funds, a person with value beyond what he could provide. 6 months after the dinner, my phone rang. It was a number I recognized. My grandmother. Her voice was thin and trembling, but there was warmth in it that I had been missing. "Valerie," she said, "I want you to know something. You were the bravest person at that table. You said what everyone else was thinking. And your mother, she knows it too, even if she is too proud to say so." We talked for an hour that night. My grandmother told me stories about my father, about how he had been the peacekeeper in his family too, about how he had struggled with the same feelings of invisibility. She told me he would have been proud of the man I had become. She told me she was proud of the man I had become. After that call, I cried for the first time since I was 14 years old. 3 months later, I got a text from Brianna. It was short, just a few lines, but it was more than I expected. "Valerie, I am sorry. I never thought about how unfair I was being. I got a job at a design firm, a real job with benefits. I'm going to start paying you back. I know it will take time, but I will do it. I promise." 2 weeks later, an email arrived from Derek. It was long and rambling and clearly written late at night, but the message was clear. He apologized for being absent. He admitted that he had always taken the easy road, letting me handle the family responsibilities while he pursued his career. He said he was going to start calling Mom more often, start being more present, start shouldering some of the weight he had let me carry alone. And then finally my mother called. Her voice was different, softer, less certain. She did not apologize exactly, that would have been too much to expect. But she asked how I was doing. She asked about my job. She asked if I was taking care of myself. It was not forgiveness. It was not reconciliation. It was not a Hollywood ending where everyone hugged and cried and promised to do better. But it was a start. I have learned something important through all of this. Loving your family does not mean letting them hurt you. Being a good son does not mean being a silent ATM. Boundaries are not betrayals. Saying no is not the same as saying, "I do not love you." Sometimes saying no is the only way to teach people that your love has value, that you have value. I used to think my worth was measured by how much I sacrificed, by how many checks I wrote, by how many emergencies I solved. Now I know that my worth exists separate from all of that. I am worthy of love simply because I exist. I am worthy of respect simply because I am a human being with feelings and dreams and a heart that can break just like anyone else's. If you are watching this and you are the one in your family who always gives but never receives, I want you to hear me. Your worth is not measured by how useful you are to others. You are not a bank account. You are not a safety net. You are a person, and you deserve to be seen. You deserve to be appreciated. You deserve to be loved for who you are, not just for what you provide. Sometimes the bravest thing you can do is stand up and say enough. So I ask you this: have you ever felt invisible in your own family? Have you ever given everything only to be told it was not enough? Share your story in the comments below. I want to hear from you. Let us build a community of people who understand what it means to reclaim their value. If this story resonated with you, please hit that like button. It helps more people find these videos. Subscribe if you have not already, so you do not miss the next one. And share this with someone who might need to hear it today. Maybe a friend, maybe a sibling, maybe someone who is struggling with the same invisible weight you once carried. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. Thank you for being here. I hope you find the courage to stand up for yourself. I hope you find people who love you without conditions. I hope you remember that you matter not because of what you give, but because of who you are. Take care of yourselves. I will see you in the next one.